We got the slow down signal. About ready to make the turn into dark territory. Welcome, this is Gene Horn. I'm glad to have you with me. Coming into this turn a little too fast. Put in the dynamic brake. See if I can slow this thing down. As we go past these single towers, we're making this bend coming off the high-speed rail. I say high-speed rail, coming off the main line, going into this rail down the Potash. Now, this rail is kind of a neglected rail. It doesn't get the attention that it should, and causing it to be, well, not as fitting for high speed as your better maintained rail. So because of that, because of the integrity of the track here, for the next 31 miles, we will be going past an intersection and single tower. That's the single tower for the traffic coming out of the dark territory, letting it know that it's coming up into the controlled area. So what is dark territory? That's that area of rail that is not underneath radio control, not underneath a control tower's privy, I guess. And we're going to just have to maintain this 25-mile-an-hour speed limit all the way through here. In fact, I can pick up a little speed, ease up on the dynamic brakes. See if I can pick up a little better here. Because we're doing about, we're not even doing 20. Now, if you're a passenger buff and you're into the high-speed trains and lots of action and lots of stops and starts and stops, the world of freight trains may be a little bit slow for you. We got these signs that need attention. And part of the gameplay is you're supposed to get out and fix the signs. It kind of cracks me up. I mean, I want to, I don't know, I think they want to take this train simulator and make it a game, and so in order to do that, you gotta pretend you're a maintenance guy and pick things up and clear things and fix signs, and kind of funny, but I'm really not interested in the points. You can see points racking up there in the right top corner, and I don't really use the HUD. I try to use the HUD as least as possible, or as little as possible. Let myself get a little out of speed here, overspeed. Grab a hold of this dynamic brake and give it a few more notches. Bring it up to 5. Get this thing down to 25 miles an hour or less. Yeah, everything we need to know are on the gauges, so I'd like to go ahead and play this more like a simulator than a game, and not worry about points so much. In fact, this is a hijacked turntable. This is a hijacked timetable where I started off late afternoon, bringing a whole consist of, I don't know, 20 or some hoppers down to Potash. I split it in half and took one of there was a 3 loco move, and I took the first loco off, and I'm just riding now with 2 of them, and only about 9 hoppers here. Yeah, if you like a lot of speed and action, then probably the U.S. freight lines aren't really the thing that are your speed in a sense, because it's all about moving bulk, and a lot of times it moves real slow. Everything about it. There's a lot of mass, a lot of tonnage, and usually you don't always have the best rail, and you got to move along at these 20-mile-an-hour speeds, and it's not the action-packed type of stuff that you may prefer. I love it though. I like running the freights. I like uncoupling and coupling up and cutting off cars and switching them around, and even today we're not doing switching. We're just moving some cars down to Potash. Um, we're enjoying the scenery at a real slow pace, very slow pace. And I got to tell you, this is the downloadable content mod called Cane Creek. Cane Creek, to me, is an unappreciated gem. I just love this scenery here. Of course, it's desert scenery. You're not going to get your cities and your high rises and your streets and all that. A lot of buildings and homes and residential stuff, and it's all desert. There's not even trees to look at least not too many. But it's beautifully, it's artistically well done, and I think it's an unappreciated gem. Too many have complained about it for various reasons. I don't know if it had functionality problems when it first came out. I hadn't had much difficulty with it so far. Let's see if we can pick up speed a little bit. We're not quite doing 20. Try doing a dynamic brake at 4. Ease up on the braking action here. As you can see, I'm using dynamic brakes instead of my air brakes. When you have a steep hill or a downhill grade that goes for a while, if you're always having to work the air brakes, you can eventually run out of air, and if you run out of air, you end up having a runaway train. So the dynamic brakes are a wonderful thing to be using because it uses the reverse polarity of the electromotor, to slow you down. It's kind of like it presents a drag on the traction drive. And by doing that, it's going to slow the train down rather than having to put on the air brakes. We're still going a little on the slow side. If you see, we're about 25. We're getting up to 25. That's just where we want to be. And so this is going to be a slow roll for the next 30 miles. And that's going to take us an hour and a half. So I don't plan on having a video go that long, so I'm probably going to end up skipping through and editing out quite a bit. A few things to talk about though. You will notice on the gauges, particularly on the amp power gauge here, we're in the yellow. When we're using the dynamic brakes, we're doing reverse power, and the needle's going to show yellow because we're braking. When we get off the dynamic brakes and we use the throttle, we'll see the electromotive power, the amperes go up in the green. And I think the nomenclature there, the numbers 3, 6, 9 in the green, I think that's 3,000 amperes. Oh, it says times 100. So, yeah, 300, 600, 900 amperes. But we're starting to pick up above a little overspeed here. probably okay. I mean, they don't really want you going on this old track, this neglected track, much past 25. But a lot of times it's kind of hard because we got these long straightaways and a couple water bottles that need to be replaced. It's another thing they want you to maintain. But yeah, these long straightaways, you know, you almost think, well, it's kind of silly that we're going so slow. But by rule, we're supposed to. Give it another click. See if we can slow it down a little bit using a dynamic brake. And that way we don't even have to touch our air brake. You can see the air brakes are rolling free. But the center gauge there, you know, the gauge to the left, that pretty much gives you your overall air brake system health. You know, you got the main reservoir. You know, the main reservoir, a compressor, air compressor, pumps into that main reservoir, and that supplies the whole train. But that compressor is going to maintain that main reservoir, you know, up in the 130 to 140 range. And then when it drops down low, the compressor will come on and pump it back up again. Then you have that's the red needle, and then the white needle, that's showing you the equalizing reservoir. That's kind of a thing that wasn't on some of the older trains. So every time you had to pump air all the way down the brake pipe, it would take forever. So the equalizing reservoir is extra amount of extra tank, who allows you to do the equalization. In other words, you can bleed off and receive air quicker than you normally could. I'm going to go ahead and ease up on the dynamic brake a little because we're slowing down too much. See, we're getting down to under 15. It's way too slow. Every time I get talking, I did a video on the air brakes, and I tried doing it where I was doing an explanation of a kind of a simplified explanation of how air brakes work, and I did it while I'm running a train, and it's like I can't multitask well, so I was stumbling all over myself trying to explain stuff at the same time trying to run the train. So it is a very informative video if you can bear through it and you struggle through the 30 minutes of it. But you know, as you can see, just me talking about the brakes now, I'm, you know, letting the speed drop and that kind of thing. You know, these trains, it doesn't look like much is going on, but they kind of they need constant attention. I think the more modern engine has cruise control on it. You can set it and forget it kind of thing. Just set what speed you want to keep it at. This is later afternoon, so we're starting to get some nice light, get some shadow effects. You know, some people may find this pretty boring. There's another desert downloadable content, another desert mod, Sherman Hill. And it's, I think people like the Sherman Hill better than this one. I find this one superior in scenery. Sherman Hill is really dull and not much of anything. It's just flat desert. We got some hillside and some other, in this one, you know, we got more vegetation and hillside and rock outcroppings and stuff to look at here. A lot more terrain, I would say. Particularly nice during certain times of day and shadowing effects. I really tell you, this, when we get into the canyon area, this mod is a gem. I love the mountains in the distance. You know, it really makes this a very nice looking scenery. You get some nice sized bushes, and once in a while a tree. It makes a difference in the scenery for sure. Welcome back. I edited out a few miles of road here, and pretty much desert isn't running. But we're coming up here. You can see this rock formation up ahead. This is 7 Mile Canyon. These mile markers, let's see if you can see it. Mile marker 18. That pretty much, I think that's 18 miles since we got into the dark territory. And like I was saying, dark territory, we passed that last signal where there's any kind of train detection. So we're in this territory now. There's no train detection. If there's other locomotives in here or whatever, we have to be real careful. It's another reason why we have to maintain slow speeds. I enjoy this route, to be honest with you. It is a slow roll, and there's plenty to look at, though. And this is a timetable. Now, I had made, using in the tools section, using the planner, I had made a similar service, or, using this route, pretty much doing the same thing in the morning, and built it with the planner. And the reason why I wanted to use the planner is because I wanted to use other trains and place them in it and run them into the yards, and that way I'd have more availability of different types of cars. Where when you take a timetable service, you only have whatever cars that they placed out there, and then sometimes you don't have access to it. When I first started out, before I got into the dark territory, we noticed a bunch of open hoppers for ballast cars type or dirt cars, open hoppers that you can I would love to be able to get access to them and push them around, but they're behind. They're protected in this scenario where you can't get in there. You can't get access to them, and so that's a frustration. I got some different types of cars, but I can't get access to them all. So by using the planner in the tools, I started to throw in different types of cars so I can get access to them and have a free roam where I have a whole selection of different types of cars other than just the tanker car and the hopper, the clothes hopper that's we're running now. And I thought that would be the answer, but what happened was when I got down to close to the end of the line, I could not change out the manual switch. It kept going back to the way that the script wanted me to go, even though I made my own plan. My plan itself limited to what I could do. It just wanted me to go to the end of service and complete the task. That's frustrating. So I'm trying to see now if I could possibly change up the manual switches when I use a timetable service rather than my own plan. Still, the limitation is I can only use what cars are available in the timetable and only the ones that are accessible through manual switches. So this Train Sim World 2 has its limitations for sure. So one of the things I can tell you is we got the dynamic brake on. You can see the needle on the amp meter going into the yellow. So even if you don't know what the setting is, it's actually on 5 right now, keeping us nice and slow. And then that middle gauge, you can see that it actually tells you the red needle is the brake cylinder and the white needle is the brake pipe. What's fascinating about this is each car on the train has its own reservoir, its own brake reservoir. And that brake reservoir, there's a valve that allows the air to go from the brake reservoir into a smaller brake cylinder. And so even if just 10 pounds of air from the brake reservoir is opened up to the brake cylinder, if it's 2 or 3 times smaller, it'll multiply the pressure. So just a few pounds drop on the largest cylinder will end up putting on 2 to 3 times or 20 pounds per square inch on the brake cylinder. So what's fascinating about that valve, it's what we call a triple valve. So a triple valve allows the air from each car's reservoir to brake the brake cylinder and brake the train. And that's what that red needle shows. That shows you how much is on the brake cylinders. Now I believe it's actually only telling us what's on the locomotive brake cylinder, but it's the same system. So we can, if everything's okay, it'll be the same pressure on every truck all the way down the train line. So if we show right now, of course we're not braking at all, we're using dynamic brakes, but if you were using the air brakes and we showed 20 pounds per square inch on the locomotive, that would pretty much tell you that you got 20 pounds per square inch going down the train line, as long as you're using the automatic brake, the train brake, the red handle one here. Some of the locomotives have black handle for the train brake, so you can't always go by color. But the fascinating thing about it is the way that valve works is it allows that to happen when there's a lowering of pressure in the brake pipe. So the brake pipe, when the pressure's higher, the valve will push over and allow the pressure to refill each car's reservoir. But when the pressure goes lower, the valve pushes over and allows each car's reservoir to press on the brake cylinder. It allows the brake cylinder to put pressure on the brake pads. And it's a fascinating thing, because if you lose pressure along the brake pipe, if you blow a line or you have a derailment and the hoses come loose, and you leak out, all the brakes will automatically just begin to brake because of the pressure drop on the brake pipe. And so that's why they call them automatic brakes. So it's a fascinating thing, it's a wonderful thing, but it does kind of throw a little confusion in, because when you put the brake handle in the position you see right now, in the release position, it's actually releasing the brake cylinders. But in reality, that valve is actually opening up to allow the main reservoir to feed pressure into the brake pipe until it gets up to 90 pounds per square inch. And also, when you're up doing that, each car's valve can refill their car reservoir to 90 pounds. Problem is, if you're never able to release the brakes if you got a train that you don't want to release brakes because it's going downhill, you can never refill each car's reservoir if you start bleeding off in what railroad men call pissing off your air. So it's really nice that you have dynamic brakes, so you can reserve air and not worry about having to manage it so tightly. This is definitely a slow roll. I mean, we're going 20, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. But it's fascinating because you're just kind of going through these mountains very slowly. I live in Florida myself, and I love watching trains, but I work around the country and travel a lot for my job. And one of the things that I do is I go out into these out west like this and go to different workplaces up away from everything. And I've seen a lot of these trains going through the desert, and they always are moving slow. They're always moving. I think the most I've ever seen them is go like 35, but typically they're just crawling along. You can see as the afternoon comes on, the light is getting deeper, the shadows are getting deeper as the light drops, the sun's dropping. Making some fascinating views as we ride along. Riding through the canyon. Got a short train with me today. Like I said, when I got in this timetable, I had a long train behind me, but I broke it. I broke most of it off and left it back in that yard so I can go see if I can play with it later. So this is really kind of a proof of concept I'm trying to do. If I don't take this engine all the way down to its final destination, whether or not I can turn it around and go back up again and start shuffling cars around and doing some switching. And we'll find out if that's a possibility here in a little bit. Well, you never can go dry because it looks like they have these water bottles just about everywhere. Fascinating views though, quite pretty. I'm really loving this route. And like I said, the scenery changes. You know, the afternoon light is coming from a different direction than the morning light. And even during the day, there's plenty to see. I mean, one of the things is a lot of the timetables, and I think the scenarios, for some reason they put the scenarios at 1 in the afternoon. It's the most boring light conditions you can have, but even still. As we come out of this tunnel, remember we are in dark territory. There's no train detection in this area. We hadn't seen a signal for 20 miles or so. Here's the arch. Coming through the tunnel. You get a glimpse of it for a moment. That mile marker, I don't know if you caught that, 30 miles. I think it's been about 30 miles since we've seen a signal. Now, any locomotive working in this area needs to be working by itself, or other locomotives need to stay off the mountain range like where we're at now, and stay with near the loading area in the yards. With only one engineer working to and from the dark territory. Otherwise, we could find ourselves head to head with another train. Definitely different views at this time of day than in the morning. Cutouts. There's that arch from the other side. A lot of rock formation, no question about that. And that's the last of the arch. We're up there a ways, I'd say. You can see from my amp meter that I still got the needle in the yellow, which means I got some dynamic brake going here. About 5 clicks in. Always nice to, in these areas, take a look out the window, stick your head out. Very nice. Some of the disappointment I've had with other scenery is a lot of repetition. I have noticed some repetition in some of the rock formations, but I'm amazed how well done this is. Yeah, it's a slow roll, but it's quite the picturesque one. Yeah, I really do think this is a gem, underappreciated, much complained about. Lots of beautiful views, if you ask me. Quite enjoyable to run. Well, we're coming to the end of the line here. I enjoyed having you guys along with me. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well and take in some of these picturesque, beautiful views of desert mountains, sculpted by erosion and wind, water, and just gorgeous. Actually, I had gotten out on foot and was able to walk down that road a ways, but it stopped after a while. Usually it doesn't let you walk far at all. But it was much further than I normally could. Anyway, I think I'll stop here, get out, take a look. Dynamic brakes off. Slow it down, put on some air brake, hold it on full. You can see on the brake cylinder, the red needle, I got about 55 pounds per square inch holding out the whole train. Put it neutral. Get up. Get out this way. Well, it was a nice run. Pleased that it went so nicely. And we'll catch you next time.